Hi, I'm Dr. Gemma, and welcome back to Cognitive, the Knitting Psychology podcast. Cheerfully and somewhat irregularly in business since 2008. Segments today may include what's on my hooks, needles, and spindles, a strategy, something I really like, put a lid on it, oh shoot, and blather. So sit back, put your feet up, pick up your knitting, crocheting, spinning, weaving, or dyeing, or any other yarny thing you're doing, and get ready to enjoy. Well, hello there. It's Dr. Gemma, and good morning from here in the safety of my studio. Welcome to episode 86 of Cognitive. Wow, it's been a week, let me tell you. So I'm just going to hop right into the warm thanks department and just say, yes, knitting in the shop. I'm glad to know you also like Wool and Company. It's really good to know that other people are following this. And also, it's nice to hear feedback about the things that I like, to know that other people are interested, and it's always good to get comments. Single Mom Power, Minerva, would like to tell you personally that she salutes your good taste, particularly where she is concerned. It's Fran. Whoa, thank you for the link to lithographs. There is a link in the show note. Lithographs has been around in various forms for a number of years now, and I'm always struggling with whether or not to buy their products. What are their products? They take famous works of literature and they print them on clothing items, bags, and cups. Yes, one of the big wrap shawls or scarves with any Jane Austen book on it has always been an attraction for me. Thank you to Chris H., or H as it may be, for your very generous coffee. I deeply appreciate the support, particularly this month, because it's been a weird month in terms of many things, but I'll get to that in the blather. COVID, yes, it's true. We're hitting that bottom limit in LA County of infection where they're talking about making us mask up again. I'll be curious to see if they can actually get us to do that. I note that our long-term friend, Betty HS, up there in the Sacramento Elk Grove region, is masking and has always been really on top of the COVID thing. Thank you, Betty. Betty's reports that I'm seeing on social media have always been this kind of barometer because they get it worse than we get it, or at least her county responds more quickly than our county responds. So thank you, Betty. I appreciate the heads up that you're masking. And also, I just heard on the news that now we're looking at masking up again in LA County. Up here in the desert, will people actually mask? Will it be enforced? Who knows? Stay tuned. As usual, you can get the links you need for the automatic online record in LA County. And also, is that LA County only? I don't even remember. There's a link for myvaccinerecord.com. Go explore that. It's in California at least. And there's also a link for the federal level, how you get your free COVID tests. I note that President Biden continues to be committed to distributing free tests. So I would imagine that program is going to go on for a while and the link will be valid. You say, but what is on your hooks and needles? I feel like I'm talking about the before time and the after time because I've had such a crazy week. But in the before time, that is before I tried to go fetch our puppy Queenie, I did finish the Lacy Springtime Shrug. This is crocheted, and I used some very, very old stash yarn. I believe it's been in the stash since before 2008. Or just about 2008. This is a Bernat blend. It's called Bernat Cashmere. And I believe it's a cashmere acrylic blend. It's a very, very nice hand. It's got just a very smooth, silky feel. If you were in our knitting group in the Antelope Valley, you will recognize this stuff because at one point I was given a huge amount of it. It was donated to an agency where I worked. They were going to throw it out. And I was literally given dozens of skeins, and so I distributed them, and I still have a few left, apparently. So I did that shrug. This is a free pattern from Lion Brand Yarn that at one time appeared in their newsletter. This is the ultimate. If you're a crocheter, this is as easy as it gets. It is just a rectangle and you seam the arms together. Now, of course, you know I'm not going to do that because to me, why would you sew a seam when you can crochet a seam? So what I did instead was I measured my shoulder, the back of my self, that is, from shoulder tip to shoulder tip, from where a set-in sleeve would begin on my shoulders. So I measured that from side to side. For me, that was 17 and a half inches, which is odd. I've always thought of myself as having more broad shoulders than that. And then I added an inch for ease, which worked out great. So that was the dimension that I cast on. I believe this time I cast on 61 stitches, something like that. It's in the pattern, but I cast it on much more broadly than I did the last time, thinking, oh, the last was a little loose. I wonder if this will fit. The last wasn't hand spun. I made this once before, years ago, before we went to Fiji, and moths got it. So this is hopefully not as mothable. But anyway, so you measure it, and it's basically, for me, it was 18 and a half inches from shoulder tip to shoulder tip. And then as long as you want it from the base of your neck down your back. And I believe I just stuck with the pattern for a cast on of 61 would be my guess. At any rate, I think I went for like 26 inches. All right, very easy pattern. You are crocheting this from side to side, not from top to bottom. And it is easy to look at their diagrams and get that wrong. So remember, you're doing it from shoulder to shoulder. And it's a very easy pattern to do, believe me. You're just alternating a 3 double stitch shell with a 2 double stitch V shell. And that's it. And then, chain 1. I mean, this is as easy as it gets. And I did that. I got a big rectangle. And instead of just seaming it together, and instead of just doing the sleeves as a part of the rectangle, what I did was when I got the right dimensions, when I got down to, what was it? I think it was 18 and a half across by about 25 or 26. Then I just joined with my trusty H hook, and I just double crocheted to make the sleeves. I did not stay in pattern for the sleeves because I like it when the sleeves look a little different from the rest of the shrug. I tried it on, and once again, it was a perfect fit. I think I had said originally I was only going to do 4 rows of double crochet for each sleeve because that's what I did the last time. This time I went a little further. I just went halfway down my arm, trying it on to see what looked good. And then I think I finished around the open edge, the inside part that is not sleeves. I believe I finished around it with a row of single crochet followed by a row of half double, which is in the instructions. The point is, this is mindlessly easy. It's a 2-day crochet for me, and I am the world's slowest crocheter. It makes a terrific shrug. You can see it fits like a glove. Getting that shoulder to shoulder measurement correct, and for me, it was shoulder tip to shoulder tip where a set-in sleeve would start, and then adding an inch for ease, and that worked really, really well. And then the length of the sleeve is just whatever you want it to be. And I don't think I did anything special to finish the sleeve. I think, did I? I might have done a 3 or 4 stitch, double crochet stitch shell. I don't care. You can't see it very well. I finished the Lacy Springtime Shrug. I wanted you to know that. This is a delightful crochet. And if you need something to go over a tank top, if you need something to sort of finish off a sleeveless dress for a summer evening where you're going out to dinner or something, this is a really nice touch. The other thing that surprised me, I'm a bit chesty. And when shrugs came back into vogue, only teenagers with flat chests were wearing them. And I thought, well, that'll never look good on me. I don't know what happened. This looks great on me. In fact, its predecessor did. This is just a really nice piece to finish off a sleeveless top. Okay. Meanwhile, I went down to my Machida country cotton shawl. That is the country cotton shawl that I was crocheting from the Lion Brand free pattern. And I was using Malabrigo Machida because you may remember I had picked up 2 skeins of it on my wanderings. And originally, I was going to make this in 1 skein, but the actual pattern calls for pretty basically 2 of your standard sock yarn, or you're holding together 2 strands of cotton thread, which I've done. And I told you last time how I gave that one away. Well, this came out just terrific. Now, it's really interesting because it does not show the color of the highly variegated Machida well. It just looks like an ash gray shawl. However, let me tell you how useful an ash gray shawl is. Goes with everything. And I did get to wear it this past week when I was in Utah. So I would recommend this pattern. It is a tried and true classic. It is a great way to use up a skein or two of sock yarn. If you just use one skein, I wouldn't recommend doing the edging. I would just simply knit the triangular part for one skein, and you'll get just enough to make a really nice one skein neck shawl. But if you're using two skeins, you're going to have plenty of yarn, and I had considerable leftover, to do the 47 rows that it asks for. That is more than enough. It makes a great hip shawl. It makes a great, generous wraparound triangular shawl. It can be rolled into a long rectangle scarf. This is a great thing. As always, the country cotton shawl. This is one of those things, along with the calm cowl. You should have these two patterns in your crocheting wardrobe, in your crocheting patterns that you know by heart. These are really easy, these two patterns. They will get you, the country cotton shawl gets you a big triangular shawl or a one skein small neck shawl. And the calm cowl gets you a really good use of crochet and hand spun to make an infinity cowl. These are both really, really terrific patterns. Very easy. I've made zillions of them, and I have never regretted it. In progress, the don't know yet. Well, I hadn't worked on it for a while because I was really dedicating myself to these two projects, to the shrug and the country cotton shawl. So I actually stopped, and I got a lot of chance to make that up. On the airplane coming back from my crazy trip, which I will tell you about in the blather, I just sat on the airplane and found that I could crochet more easily in the tiny seats to which I was assigned than I could knit, because with my knitting, I was going to be elbowing the person who was far too close next to me. So I crocheted through an entire skein of the Knit Picks Brava sport weight that I've been using, which makes 11 blocks. So fortunately, I caught up the don't know yet. So we will be slightly over 200 blocks on July 19th. In fact, we're probably at the 200 level right now as I record this on July 15th because I got in a few extras. So that's nice. We're at about 200 blocks. Still got plenty of yarn, looking at the box right now. But the box is emptying. It has a few other skeins of other projects I've tossed in there because I have not done a thing on the Sunnybank Love Scarf, which I meant to. I just didn't, and it's now in a suitcase, rapidly heading homewards as we speak. The midsummer socks I took with me to knit. That was nice. I probably put in a row on the abortive air flight out of Burbank, and I will come back to that saga. In the queue, the Pennsylvania Dutch embroidery and the Bright Cherries brick. The brick I'm just holding off on. I'm not sure if Twin Face is going to have a change of heart or not, but that usually takes months in her case. So I'm just going to hold off on that. But frankly, when the winter comes, if it's sitting there, yeah, it's just going to get ripped out and re-skeined. I'd rather do that than start a new sweater. Let's see what else. The Sunnybank Love Scarf. I roamed through my stash and found that I have some reasonable Knit Picks worsted weight that was meant to be Sunnybank hats and now is going to be in the Sunnybank scarf because I want to either intarsia or duplicate stitch a collie on this. And I have brown and I have white. I have the right colors, in other words. So we'll see how that goes. That's probably where I'm going next because I just am turned off on knitting socks. I've knitted a lot. I don't need new socks right now. I have a ton of them. So, I just decided, I always have socks in progress. So those are the midsummer socks. At this rate, they're going to be the midwinter socks. My favorite resources, I now have links for Lisa Souza yarns, for Webs to get your supplies. And Webs has perfectly decent yarns as well, I might add. Quite good quality yarns. I've enjoyed them. And Sierra Cottons and Wools in Bishop, California, now my LYS. There must be something closer to me in Los Angeles, but I'm so happy with this. Things I learned on this road trip. Colorado is alive and well with local yarn shops. Kansas doesn't seem to have one anywhere. Kind of tells you what the weather is like. Meanwhile, I have a link for Wool and Company because I'm so grateful to them for that discounted Machida yarn that finished my beautiful country cotton shawl. Dizzy Blondes, I am not doing the Tour de Fleece, and thank goodness. I have enough things making me insane right now. I'm trying so hard to get this dog, and so much else has been happening. So no Dizzy Blondes and no Tour de Fleece this year. The strategy. Well, I got another great posting from TST, Tiny Shiny Things, who, thank you, TST. I'm glad you like the new moniker, the new acronym, the new nickname. I'm really happy about that. And so Tiny Shiny Things was talking about that she does have 30-something-year-old friends. And not only that, I found out I do too, because I got a good-natured text from Jasmine of the Knitmore Girls going, "What am I, chopped liver?" Now, I think we should assess that comment. First of all, chopped liver is not beautiful, and Jasmine is. So Jasmine, for someone who posts a lot of stuff about, your hair and your looks and all that sort of thing, I think we can agree that you and I have both proven beyond experimental doubt that you are not chopped liver. If you are having worries about being chopped liver, this is called a delusional disorder, and maybe we should talk more deeply, or you might want to consult with your primary care physician. But I am pretty sure you are not chopped liver. Now, all joking aside, I did not mean when I posted in my last episode that when you're older, when you're in your 50s and 60s, 30-year-olds don't want to be your friends. I didn't mean that applied to me. I have some very nice friends in that range. So I apologize. That came off as a little too broad. And also, happily, TST informs me that she is an open water swimmer. I hope you don't mind me saying this. She has lots of 30-year-old friends. That's how you do it. And exactly. I mean, when I rock climb, the 30-year-olds joke and talk with me. That is why you use the strategy that I was mentioning last time. You have to stay in the world. And believe me, athletic stuff is a great way to do that. I've been chauffeuring my son for the last 2 days to swimming events, and all the moms there, all the swim moms know each other as well. So I thought, yeah, that's how you do it. You got to be in that mom community. I'm a little old for it, but if I was chauffeuring instead of working all day while my husband chauffeurs, I suspect I'd have a little more 30-ish community. But anyway, mea culpa, my apologies to the 30-year-olds that I offended in the audience, because, of course, everybody who listens to this podcast is witty, humane, and intelligent. So you would never work against us 60-somethings and above. I realize that. However, do be careful. The rest of the world may not be as enlightened by you. I also suspect that our culture doesn't know what to do with older people. For some reason, I hear the craziest things about aging people. And so you have to realize you probably are more witty, intelligent, humane, compassionate, etc., if you're listening to this podcast, than the average person might be, because it's all over the place that we're just invisible once you're older. You're just like, poof, not there. So, yeah. Anyway, no, I did not mean to take a cheap shot at the 30-year-olds, and I'm certainly grateful to those of you who have been and are my friends. Okay, meanwhile, there is the strategy, which is enough is as good as a feast. And this has helped me a lot as I age. One of the things I noticed in my 40s, I heard that phrase and for the first time paid attention to it and started to really think about that. Now, that is a phrase right out of mindfulness. Enough is as good as a feast. And there was some great research where they showed that if a person makes $75,000 a year in the United States, and this was a few years back now, they are the happiest. That people who make more than that at that time were unhappy. And people who made less were unhappy. But that seems to be this kind of weird maximal level where Americans have enough. And there was a famous experiment. A young entrepreneur who'd made himself wealthy basically said, okay, then everybody in my corporation, including the janitors maintaining the buildings, are getting 75 grand. He has had spectacular success with this policy. His people don't leave. They're deeply loyal to the company. They believe they are a communal organization where they are working in each other's best interest. He posts frequently on social media about this was a successful social experiment, that when you pay people enough and you make sure they have enough to survive and be content, they will devote themselves to your business almost slavishly because this is such a good deal. So it's a very healthy communal experiment. Enough is as good as a feast. And if you read books on management, and I did, several years ago when I was working at the agency from hell, they brought in a consultant to improve our management. What happened? Well, the upper management became hostile to people like me, the lower management, and they began to blame everything in the company on us. We had lousy productivity. Morale was terrible. This guy came in. He pointed this out. They suggested they would fire him. I got hired. I came in. I read all the management books he recommended that I could get hold of, and they were terrific. Anyway, so I read all the management books. I took my department from 60-something% productivity to 90%, over 90, in about 3 months. So we go to a meeting. This guy says, we need to listen to her, points at me, says, I don't know what you're doing, but whatever you're doing, everybody else should be imitating you. I was told in public that I should not explain. The vice president was insulted. He got fired. She got fired. I got fired. I was the only one who succeeded in doing this. So I got fired from that job for successfully improving management. Why? Because therapists make lousy managers. That's the first thing I learned. That's the first thing the consultant tried to teach us, is you can't think like a therapist. You have to think like a manager. And that doesn't mean being cold-hearted. It means working on morale, not attacking one set of people because you think your business is not doing well. So, what I learned from all of this is enough is as good as a feast, and every good management book says that. When I treated my own supervisees and my own team like that, we became extraordinarily successful. And you're in bad management purgatory when you get fired for it. Yeah, by the way, my team was unlicensed. All of them got licensed except one during my tenure. Think that's an accident, kids? So, I have learned over and over in the management world, in watching other people manage their businesses, that enough is as good as a feast. And I did start applying that to my life in my 40s, but I don't think I understood it till I was in my late 50s. I was in private practice, and I started to really considering what our world would look like. And I've talked before about how in my late 50s, I revamped all our finances because I realized we were just not attending to the things we needed to attend to. We had too much debt, etc. It's been a multi-year project, and it's worked very, very well. I now have more yarn than I can possibly knit in the rest of my life. We have a perfectly nice farm. We are pretty much out of debt. We are working on other projects. It's really been great. And to do this, you have to stop yearning for what you don't have. And you have to do it on the job. You have to do it in your home. You have to do it with your finances. You have to do it with your spending. It's a very, very deeply rooted strategy. The interesting thing is you're going to find that you're working against standard American culture. Now, if you're not in America, I'm really looking forward to the responses. I hope you guys are going to post to this. Remember, you can post in the show notes at cognitivepodcast.blogspot.com, or you can post on our Ravelry group. But I really hope somebody responds to this who's not in America. At any rate, American culture is about desire. It's about need. It's about lacking. You're constantly marketed hard at. Your social media is filled with it, which has kept me from joining a lot of social media and has really reduced my time on Facebook and Instagram, the only ones I bother with. The marketing is intense here, and it's always trying to create this artificial sense of need. And you have to work against that. You have to walk through stores saying, actually, I don't need anything, or going in with a fixed list and not varying from it, or a fixed budget. And that leaves you moments where, like last night, we were in Walmart. I was going to buy a big floppy straw hat. I said, my house is full of hats at this point. Why do I need another one? And instead, we ended up making a fun investment in some Legos. My son had been really good, so we got some Legos. That's what the change is. When you start saying enough is as good as a feast, you start getting some of the clutter cleared out. You start getting down to what you really need. You stop making impulse buys. The other interesting thing is that has led us to experiences. So we're happy to buy a puppy because we want a certain life here. It's not just an object that we're going to wear or add to the house that adds to the clutter. And this week especially, we're happy. I'll get back to that. It also means that we have money to go to Yosemite in September. We have money to go to the Grand Canyon and to kennel the animals and such like thing. That you start getting away from purchase and loans and everything else, and you start getting into real-time commitment with your money. You start getting into uncluttering your house. You start getting into a better mood. All of this is based on enough is as good as a feast. And I know I'm talking about it mostly financially, but that really was where it changed everything. And to realize that you want to gather experiences. And when you do that, that means you want to reduce clutter and waste and other stuff. It also is working well for me as we age because we're on a farm. And enough is as good as a feast made us realize that we needed to let our animals age out instead of replacing them. Now, this is not to say that being on a farm is a bad retirement plan, but that is another variation. And one of the things that happened to us was that we realized that we had a teenage son and we needed to commit finances to him. And that means letting our animals age out. Also, we recognized that in the last 20 years, the value of our money has gone down while our income has not increased in any significant way. So we realized letting the animals age out was a good idea and not restocking the farm with livestock because we want to, put money to other things. And so we're not paying for those costs. Remember, we're still raising a child. And we're looking, as a result, at downgrading or relocating, but we're not looking hard right now. So the point is that when you do this, when you say enough is as good as a feast, you're really committing to a very sweeping set of lifestyle changes that affect how you live, where you live, your pets, your family's budget, your ability to travel, your ability to get new experiences. I'm thinking if you're aging and you're lonely, that's a terrific thing to do. That's a terrific way to revamp yourself. I'll let you know since I'm aging. I'm apparently about to get some real life experience. But so far, so good. And so I cannot recommend that strategy of enough is as good as a feast. I cannot recommend it enough. Okay. Meanwhile, TST, Tiny Shiny Things, also brings up, what about chronic pain, though? Yeah, that's another thing that goes on in aging. And that is an interesting thing because that also is going to limit some choices. And chronic pain is an issue of mindfulness, at least where you see the most success. So I think I'm going to try and circle back to that at a later time. And I hope I remember. If I don't remember TST, feel free to remind me because that is a very worthwhile topic. I might see if I do that next episode. Because chronic pain is an issue you can't do in one fell swoop. You've got to really talk about that at depth. Okay, meanwhile, fluffy books. I haven't really done anything in the books this week. I've just been listening to a lot of older stuff. I started re-listening to Pride and Prejudice. Amazon has a very nice version. I should say Audible has a very nice version, narrated by Rosamund Pike, who's a British actress. And she does a really good job with it. I prefer Dame Juliet Stevenson's readings, but she doesn't seem to have a recorded version of it. So I'm still working my way through Introduction to American Deaf Culture. I did finish the Enola Holmes series. There is another one due out, I think next month. And it's very nice. She has transitioned into a slightly more mature version, very slightly, of Enola. And her latest episode is very satisfying. When you read the early episodes, one of the questions you're going to get, without spoilers, is how long can the author maintain what Enola is doing? Because it's going to look a little unbelievable in terms of how dim is Sherlock. At the same time, I want to really, really recommend the series because it is very feminist in its consciousness of how much men do not understand the world of women. And I just read some literary criticism on it, which I think is a little overblown about girl power and independence. Let me tell you something. In Victorian England, Enola would have been impossible. And
It's because she is too autonomous, that women really could not be respectable and travel alone the way she does. However, it's a great series. However, the use of, yes, corsetry is wonderful in the series. And the idea of there is this subversive world of women in Victorian London is very well worth attending to, because we do know this, that in cultures that really oppress women, there is almost always a strongly developed subversive female movement. There's often secret sign language in Enola Holmes. They talk about the language of flowers, which is very developed in the Victorian age. She's really got that right. And I know there are examples in more oppressive moments in Chinese culture where women had secret languages. This is not uncommon in oppressed subcultures. And so kind of subverting that to write about Enola is quite brilliant. The place where it gets a little shaggy is I do not believe she'd have the freedom of travel and respectability that she has. However, it is a series well worth the enjoying. Meanwhile, something I really like, Angry Orange Odor Eliminator. Yes, it's spray that covers pet stains and odor. It doesn't hide the stains if they're really old. Boy, you can hear a lot about my life, can't you? However, if you get a fresh stain, it really does cover the stain. But more important, it covers the scent, so your pet doesn't come back and use the place as its permanent bathroom. And it really works. I got an ad on Instagram for an odor eliminator that was not Angry Orange, but it made me go online and do the research. Angry Orange is all natural stuff. Yes, it smells like orange peel because that's its major ingredient. And I mean, it really smells like orange peel. However, I got it off Amazon. It's $25 for a good sized bottle. I went through half the bottle in my bedroom because Captain got real confused about using my bedroom as a latrine. And blankets got stuck in the bedroom once or twice recently. And, well, she was ashamed of herself. I have to tell you, I sprayed the whole place. Neither dog has shown the least interest in the spots again. It is good stuff. So this is Angry Orange Odor Eliminator. There is a link in the show notes to it. I highly recommend it. It's very well worth the cost. And it clearly eliminates the odor for my very keen-nosed dogs and the cat. They warn you that it can be overpowering in close quarters for a cat. Minerva's doing just fine with it. We have been spraying my big bedroom suite, as I mentioned just a minute ago. Minerva's in there a lot of her time. She doesn't seem to care. It goes really well. Of course, since it's all natural, I did do a quick spray over her litter box. Not really. Now, of course, before you're all grossed out, I scoop out her litter box, liquid and solid every day with the clumping cat litter. I don't let it stink. You know, we have a regular subscription to litter that gets delivered every month. Please don't think my house stinks of a cat box. But I was just curious. So after she used it, I sprayed. And it's like, no, it's not that powerful in that direct a manner. But let me tell you, stains on the carpet, this stuff is the bomb. The other thing I really like, a program called Lonely Screen. This is for mirroring your iPhone onto your PC, your Windows program. It is a subscription program. It used to be free, and it stopped working after 14 days, so they're serious about that subscription. However, if you would like to see your iPhone screen blown up on your PC, this is a free download. And I used it once and I liked it. I'm still looking for a solution. I really would like to have a better monitor for my iPhone. And I'm still muddling around with that. You'll probably hear more. But there's a link in the show notes. Oh, the blather. Okay, the easy stuff. ASL classes begin August 22nd. And the Yosemite trip, we're still looking for someone to throw hay, but we haven't been working on it that much. We have several viable solutions. However, it's been a hard week around the ranch. First of all, Quechua died, our last llama, standing. We suspect that she was actually a vicuña, that she didn't look too much like the other llamas. She is simply the most beautiful llama I have ever seen. I grant you, our late lamented Nike, who passed on a few years ago, had more exciting coloring, but Quechua had The eyes that her breeder said, yeah, I know, you just look at them and you fall into them. Nobody can resist them. Quechua was dumb as the proverbial post. The first time I tried to saddle her, she broke my thumb. She just kind of jumped backwards for no reason we'll ever know. She was the least trainable. Was she really dumb? No, she's probably a vicuña, because that happens. American llamas, when they were imported early in the 20th century, it's pretty obvious that some of the people buying were not that bright, and some of the people selling just captured anything and sold it. So there's a healthy dose, apparently, of vicuña inbred with American llamas. Nonetheless, Quechua was bred out of two alleged llamas, both of whom looked like, well, no, that's not true. Yeah, both her parents looked like llamas. However, Grandma Chloe looked exactly like Quech in build and did not look like a llama. Long and narrow, no big barrel, that sort of thing. All these things mean Quechua has been a part of our farm for 20 years. And as the other llamas gradually faded and died, Quech just didn't. And as the alpacas went, one of the alpacas, Jubilee, just didn't. Juby is still with us. Juby is older than Quech. Juby's probably 25 or 26. We believe she's going blind now. She probably has the same neurological disorder that her late lamented sister Summer had. Some of you may remember our black alpaca Summer, who was always blind from the time we got her. At any rate, Jubilee is still with us. We had some doubts about this, but she came up for hay this morning, and she seems perfectly fine. Game plan is to herd her in with Roxy the pony so that she's not alone. But so far, she's been without Quech for about 3 days and seems to be just fine. That's not supposed to be possible. Quechua died of extreme old age. There just is no other way to say it. We were warned last week. She was standing with her head down, and my hub said, I'm kind of worried about that. And I said, well, okay, let's keep an eye on her because I'm worried about her getting attacked by coyotes. Coyotes know better than to come near camelids, let me tell you. And that's why I thought when we realized Quechua was dead, I thought, oh my God, they've eaten Jubilee because she's just a little alpaca. Apparently not. Apparently she's out there making a good stand for herself, but we've got to get her in. We've been trying to catch her. Jubilee, this is not easy. Quechua is resting along with her brothers and sister down in our wash, not in the actual waterbed, for heaven's sake, but at her favorite place, sort of partly up the side of the wash. She brings the era of llamas to an end here at Quail Dance Ranch. We will miss her. We have had our big llamas just hunkering around the place for 2 decades. They have served us well. It has been a beautiful experience, shearing them, spinning them. Oddly, I keep thinking of a Victorian quote about dogs that ends with the very hackneyed rhyme, oh, there was something with the old dog went that I had not thought could go. I feel that about the old llama. We're going to miss Quechua terribly. Strangely, just knowing there is no llama wandering our back 40 acreage is just silent. That walking out there, the farm seems curiously empty. But it is a natural progression, and I'm very, very glad that we're bringing Queenie in. Now, Queenie, you may remember I was going to fly out there, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so this past Monday, I got on the plane, American Airlines, and I will always love Laura of Dizzy Blonde Studios for saying which airline, so I know never to fly them. I get on their flight. Everything was good. Air conditioner went out. Pilots were late. We sat on the airplane on the tarmac in Burbank, California, as the temperature inside the cabin, I'm sure, got to 100 degrees. The poor stewardesses were like, okay, we don't know what to do. The pilots aren't here. They started handing out water. They didn't have ice. Eventually, they showed up with ice, but I had my own water bottle, but I simply couldn't take the heat. I finally stood up and said, I can't do this. I was going to throw up. I got off the plane. I promptly went to the restroom, and they just replaced me. And I went to the gate person who was super nice, and my first class ticket, what I was offered in exchange, was a red eye. I could get on a plane at 4:17 p.m. in Burbank. They would get me to Wichita, Kansas at something like 11 a.m. in the morning, which would be a huge layover all night with no hotel, no food, no nothing. They offered me nothing. No refund. It was going to be economy class. That's what they offered me in replacement for my 2 first-class flights. out to Wichita. I just looked at him and said, "You've got to be kidding." And I just burst into tears. I don't cry a lot. It takes a lot to make me cry. I cried. And I went to the check-in agent down at the departures, the very first person you meet when you go in before TSA. And she offered me the same thing and nothing else. And I said, "You've got to be kidding. This was not my fault." And so then she gave me a card. She was really sweet, very nice, but gave me a card. "Here, go to this website." I go to the website. They go, "Nope. Even though your tickets are fully refundable, we're not refunding them." And I was like, wait a minute. I bought refundable tickets that I could also do a change of plan. Nope, none of that. Paid $400 extra dollars. Nope, none of that. So I called American. And I talked to the nice staff person. She said, "No, you have to go to this website." I said, "I did. Here's what I got." She said, "Well, we can't refund it here. You'll have to go to this website." I said, "I did. Here's what I got." And then I cried again. I thought I could scream or I could cry. I really want to cry. So I just cried. I cried and I said, "I'm a doctor. I have patience. This was very carefully timed. This was not my fault. Your flight heated up to 100. She goes, "Okay, here's how you're going to get your deposit. It'll be there tomorrow." And it was. So, you know what? I learned a few things. Cry. Sure, women are allowed to cry. I cried. I never do that. I don't yell at people. I don't cry. I don't try to manipulate people emotionally. Yeah, well, I'm over that. So I got that refunded. Meanwhile, I went home. I called my husband. He picked me up. And he helped me problem solve. And he was like, "Why don't you just drive?" I don't know what I was thinking. Next morning, I'm in the car. And I thought, I can do this. I can do this. No, I couldn't. I got myself to St. George, Utah. I was altitude sick. I was dizzy with the heights. I had a hard time driving because you do this really rapid ascent into the mountains at the boundary of Arizona and Utah. I was sick as a dog. I called my husband at like 4 p.m, just crying, said, "Help me." All right. So I was so distressed. He's like, "You need to get some food before we can talk." I don't even want to talk about driving through Vegas. It was terrifying. I did fine, but people are used to it. And there's like 8 lanes, one direction, and people are just flying across lanes. And the speed limit was way high. I wasn't used to driving a car at 70 and 75 miles an hour. My big tank doesn't handle well, in my opinion. And then I call a friend in Salt Lake City. She goes, "When you get past Cedar City, Iowa, it goes up to 80. Iowa, Cedar City, Utah, it goes past 80. I was just in a panic. I'm calling my husband crying in a parking lot just north of St. George in a suburb called Washington. He said, "You need to eat something and call me back. You need to calm down and eat something. We're going to work through this." I said, "There's no food. There's no food." I'm sitting in a parking lot with a Black Bear Diner and a Culver's Diner. And I'm literally 20 yards from these things, and I just don't see them. That's how distressed I was. Anyway, so I went into the Black Bear. And I learned another thing. Welcome to Utah. I had a very, very shy college girl as a waitress. I'm in a tank top. She basically couldn't stop staring at my cleavage and put me all alone in the back. So I think I was embarrassing to her. So it's true. I went back to my car. I pulled out the Machida country cotton shawl, which I had finished. I wrapped it around my cleavage. Everything went better. I learned that in the state of Utah, there are actually stores that advertise on the window modest clothing, which, being Amish, I understand. I went and looked at it. It was T-shirts. So I'm not sure if there's a conservative Mormon definition of modesty, but apparently a low tank top. I mean, it wasn't that low, but it was low enough, I guess. But again, I kind of grew up in the Philadelphia area where we have Quakers and Amish people, and I'm related to both, and it was an interesting experience. And so I did notice you'd see a lot of teenagers wearing extremely short shorts and sleeveless shirts, but you did not see low necklines. And I don't know if that's a norm. I look forward to any response, but it was okay. Actually, that is why I did bring that shawl, was I was concerned that I'm traveling in slightly more conservative areas than California, and I was concerned that people might be more conservative in their dress. Meanwhile, I'm in a car in 116-degree weather, so yeah, I'm in a tank top and a silk skirt. I'm trying to keep it as lightweight as I can. But it was very, very interesting. St. George, Utah is beautiful. It is a beautiful place. I was worried about having a California license plate. Everybody hates Californians. Don't blame the Utahns. You don't want to do that in Oregon or Washington either. And so I just drove the speed limit and minded my P's and Q's. But it was a very beautiful place. And my regret is that I didn't see Zion, which I was very close to, but that wasn't going to happen. I had a good dinner. I found a good hotel. I had the points on my Marriott account to pay for it, so that was all nice, but it was inexpensive anyway. And I ended up there and called my husband back, and we agreed that I would fly home the next day, and he would fly out and get the car. I said, why don't you just let me fly on to Wichita and get Queenie anyway? And he said, just fly home. He said, we've had enough bad karma on this trip, which I agree with. He is probably about 15 minutes from the house as I say this. He is driving home now with my car. I got on 2 puddle jumpers, one to Salt Lake City from St. George. By the way, St. George Airport, really nice, really small, really, really nice staff. Get some bad reviews online. I have no idea why. I could not have dealt with nicer people. I just walked on with carry-on. I left everything in the back of the car in the very small airport parking lot, which I left careful directions for the beloved. And in Salt Lake City, I was there 5 hours, no complaints, had a good discussion with my buddy Nancy, who was going to come to the airport. And I said, no, I'm not. I'm really headachy and exhausted. It does seem to have been altitude sickness. And anyway, I had 5 hours in the airport. I masked up. That would have made me about the only person in the state of Utah, as far as I can tell. Some people coming from out of state were masked. Utah is very unusual. If you're from California, it's like, I don't think they had COVID there, or they don't think they had COVID there. So that was a bit unusual. Okay. All I can say is okay. I believe in COVID. I live in a zone where we have a lot of COVID. That's all I can tell you. All my patients, half my patient list right now is COVID. Okay, whatever. It was just very unusual because it was clearly culturally very different. And, it is a beautiful place. And the people were very, very nice to me. And it's interesting hearing my husband's observations, too, because he had a slightly different set of observations, and that made me feel good. He said it's a really nice place, really nice people. And he thought St. George was a little too built up for its location in the desert. I didn't see it that well. I thought it was a very pretty place, and the people were kind. And I just found the masklessness a little strange. But anyway, they were really nice. And Salt Lake City was Salt Lake City, as it's always been, and pretty decent airport restaurants. I did find the Starbucks. I had to hike to Terminal A, which is 3/10 of a mile from Terminal B underground, which is kind of interesting, but you don't have to go through security. Picked up my plane to Burbank, landed in Burbank. We met there in Burbank, spent the night in the same hotel we'd been in on the way out when I tried to leave. And then my husband flew out, landed in St. George yesterday, has been driving back this morning. Queenie is going to be shipped overland. It's a drive by a group called Puppy Travelers. I called them this morning. They could not have been nicer. We're going to rendezvous either in Victorville or Corona on Tuesday night, and I will get Queenie. What a week, huh? Meanwhile, Minerva gets the last word. Our buddy Keith came out from Texas to celebrate his mom's 79th birthday. And after he did a train trip with her from Seattle to LA on the, I think it's called the Starlight Coastal Amtrak, which looked beautiful. It looked like an amazing trip. He came to hang with us after he took his mom to the airport because he was staying on a few days with friends. And he came out to the farm. We all went out to dinner after, as he put it, a hard day of doctoring for me. We had a wonderful, wonderful time with Mr. Keith, and you can see Minerva seducing him. Yes, seducing him. Keith has a soft spot for cats that I had somehow forgotten. And he came out to the farm, and he treated Minerva like the goddess she knows that she is. And so you can see she even sealed the deal by biting him in a very gentle way. So now we know Mr. Keith has always been part of our family, and apparently Minerva knows it too. So Minerva's last word is that she has adopted our dear friend, Mr. Keith. And I had a very interesting set of conversations with him about what I'm doing for a living and how I could make it easier on myself. So that's interesting too. Meanwhile, everything is good on the job. It looks like my supervisee is relocating to Bakersfield, so that will end that relationship, and I will be taking on a few more paying patients and happy to do it. So there we are. Everything is good. Queenie is still coming. It has been quite a saga. It hasn't been all bad, but it feels a little bit like a wasted vacation. Although I'm grateful to have seen St. George, I will be happy if I never pass through Las Vegas again, particularly driving. But in the meantime, I regret not making it out to Wichita, where my very dear friend Rachel was going to meet me. She was going to drive over from Joplin, Missouri, bless her heart. There have been a lot of missed opportunities this week, but we are all well. We are all, looks like we're about back together. Oh, by the way, you may remember that I had promoted the Vinx, and it is a reader that you plug into your car, and I can't think, ODB2, whatever it's called. Yeah, I've been using the Vinx to track my car since my husband left St. George at 5:45 this morning. That thing is a gift. I can't recommend the Vinx enough. V as in Victor, Y, N as in Nancy, C as in Cat, S as in Sam. So on that happy note, please wear your mask, social distance, wash your hands, basically get your boosters. Remember that COVID is coming around again. Yeah, we're pretty much going to be masked up here by Christmas. If anybody bothers, this is not the part of Southern California where people are conscious of that kind of thing. What I'm really trying to say is I'm too tired to fight that battle. But everybody stay safe, take care of each other, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
So we have come to the end of another episode of Cognitive. Please do not use this podcast to diagnose yourself. If you think you are having a mental health problem, please contact a licensed mental health professional. Show notes for these episodes can be found at cognitivepodcast, all one word, .blogspot.com. Episodes can be found at iTunes under the name Cognitive Podcast, but also can be found posted next to the show notes on the Blogspot page. Thank you so much for listening. Everybody stay safe, take care of each other, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.